Let's call this meeting to order. This is the December 16th meeting of the Redevelopment Commission, and we are joined also in force with the Monroe County Board of Commissioners and representatives from the Monroe County Housing Commission. And we thank everyone for being here today. Thank Katz for being here to televise this and record this. And I think we were thinking that perhaps instead of the traditional roll call, we kind of introduce ourselves, the three bodies, and then we also have some guests from, looks like the County Council, the BDC, and others who can also introduce themselves. So I'm Efrat Pfefferman. I'm the current president of the Monroe County Redevelopment Commission, and I'll let my fellow commissioners also introduce themselves.
I am Richard Martin. I'm the vice president of the Redevelopment Commission this year.
Hi, I'm Jim Shelton. I'm a member of the Redevelopment Commission.
Hi, I'm Lisa Abbott. I'm a RDC member and a member of the Monroe County Affordable Housing Committee.
And
I'm Dana Kerr. I am a non-voting member of the RDC and the president of the RBB CSC School Board.
thank you. We're missing Commissioner Kiesling, but perhaps she'll join us soon. And I'll turn it over to the Board of Commissioners and then the Housing Commission to introduce themselves as well.
So Penny and Lee.
I'm Penny Githens, Monroe County Commissioner, and thank you for inviting us today.
Thanks for being here.
Lee.
Maybe some audio trouble, but looks like Commissioner Lee Jones is on the call too. And then the Housing Commission members.
Hi.
Oh, there you are.
Hi, Lee.
All right, hopefully we'll get her back.
I am Vox Baku. This is my second year chairing the Affordable Housing Commission. It's good to be with you all today.
Thanks for being here.
I'm Kathy Crabtree. I'm also on the Affordable Housing Advisory Commission for the county.
I'm Mary Morgan, also a member of the County Affordable Housing Advisory Commission.
And Lisa Abbott already introduced herself as wearing both hats. Did I miss anyone?
Deborah may join us later, but she's not here at the moment. Deborah Myerson.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Okay, with that, on our agenda first is a conversation with the county commissioners and the Affordable Housing Commission regarding housing TIFs. And Jeff, I don't know if there's anything you'd like to lead off with, or if any of the other bodies would like to lead off with anything. We certainly appreciate everyone being here for this conversation. I know we've talked in different ways, and the Housing Commission has done its homework on a lot of these tools available to county government, as has the RDC and the commissioners. And so now we're pulling everyone together to talk in a little more detail.
And I think I would like to kind of give a brief overview, because, you know, I think that there's been a lot of discussions and a lot of different ways to look at affordable housing. And since we're dealing with the Redevelopment Commission, I think it's important to maybe give a brief background on what a TIF is and how it collects revenue and how it does projects. I think that'd be helpful for everyone here. And just so Iris contacted me, I've resent the link to the meeting, so she should be here shortly.
Great.
Essentially, the theory behind a TIF district, or a tax increment finance district, is that it's declared a district, and it gets revenue based upon the increase in assessed value, or the increase in this case with the area that the RDC has been talking about, which is essentially undeveloped property. Once the buildings come in, revenue will come into the TIF district based upon the assessed value and the tax rate for that area. It'll go to the TIF district in the allocation fund, and then that's the money that they use for the projects. Typically, historically, it's been done where in this TIF district where we put the infrastructure in and we use those funds to pay for that infrastructure. We do that through bonds, and in this TIF we have a bond, but it's kind of a different kind of a bond issue, and because the revenues aren't expected or haven't come in the way it should. Like in one of our other TIF districts, we issue those bonds based upon the revenue that's currently coming in. So this would be kind of speculative a little bit on whoever would put the infrastructure in and the revenues that come in from that. So I just kind of want to know how the kind of funding sources and how that would work as we move forward with the conversation about a residential TIF, especially in the area that the RDC has been looking at. I believe that you guys should all have like a map that shows the North Park TIF district. And if you look at that map that I sent out or that was forwarded for me, thank you, Vox, you'll see an area with the number 2 on it. I think that's primarily where the RDC has been looking at for this kind of an idea. And one of the big reasons for that is it's already been planned for housing, and it seems to be in a pretty good location as far as roads and connectivity through both Ellettsville, our west side industrial areas, and of course with the interstate there. So those are kind of where we've been looking at and kind of how that funding works. I'm kind of interested in knowing, what are the goals for this kind of a housing project. I think on my initial email, I had 3 different goals. One being, do we want to even incentivize high housing? And I think that's maybe a quick answer with this group with all your expertise. And the second one, I think, is I'd like to have you guys talk about the level of housing that we would want to subsidize or incentivize. I've sent out a sheet that was prepared by our financial solutions group that indicates the kind of revenue per home that we would see on both a $250,000 and a $275,000 home. I know that at least in past conversations at RDC meetings, there was some, I don't want to say question, but maybe some thought as to we probably should get some feedback under whether those are the right levels for homes. I think those are kind of the 2. And then the third one is the area that the RDC has been looking at, does that make sense to the broader group? So I think those were kind of my 3 goals going into this conversation. You guys can have other ones, but since I had the floor, I thought I'd throw them out there.
Thank you, Jeff. No, I think that's a good starting point for the discussion. So your first question, can you restate it? It was pretty much, are we all interested, right?
It's one of those, the county has not done any kind of incentivizing for housing outside of potentially looking at our planning to allow it there. This is just kind of another step towards that. And I think the base question that we should have, because if we answer it no, then, it's going to be
stop.
Yeah, there's no reason to move forward. Is that something that the county should be looking at and we should be interested in doing?
So I'm going to pipe in here for a few seconds. I don't think that housing that's under $300,000 at this point is considered high-end housing anymore. I mean, if you look at our average housing costs, I think that's not too high-end, and there's still no inventory. And part of the issue that we're having is we don't have workforce housing. We don't have starter homes, and people who have homes that might be considered starter homes don't have any place to go up to. So if you buy a house in your starter home and you have a couple of kids and you decide that, I want a bigger house, or I want to be in this school district or whatever, there's very few choices for you to go to, which means that the house that they have that they started in is not available for someone else. So I think that I think it's important for us to create that missing middle housing options, and to create some inventory, however we can do it. Now, with that said, I don't think that we should be subsidizing or doing, assistance in housing that's, $400,000, $500,000 housing. And that's, I think outside of of the need for
I
us
agree.
to do that. But I think that we do need to create more housing in that middle income family type style, because we don't have enough of it, and so people don't have choices. The other thing that we need, by the way, just because I'm throwing this out here, is we need condos for people who are now trying to move out of their housing, which would then free up housing for some of those families, because they're at a point where they don't want to take care of a yard or any of those kinds of things anymore. When a condo goes on the market in this town, in this county, it goes quickly, because there's just not enough of them.
Yeah.
So that's another housing style that we should maybe discuss.
Well, let me interject. I think this is a really good location. We've got, we've heard from Pete Yonkman about the problem that he's got out there with homes for people he's trying to hire. He's going to create a bunch of jobs. We don't know how many, probably several thousand in the former GE plant. And we are just finishing the Profile Parkway extension that opens up the old ABB site for development. And there's a very strong chance that we will need a lot more housing nearby out there. The West Gate at 3rd Street just got approved by the Plan Commission last night. That'll help, but we need several more equivalents of those where people can get to work easily, perhaps even without a car, or without having to drive very much. And so this would be a very good location if we can make it work financially.
Thank you. Other thoughts? Yes, Fox. Are you waving or are you just twiddling?
You know what, I was just typing, but I definitely have some questions. I'm happy that Lisa chimed in to talk about standard housing prices, because I was in the midst of asking that myself. I would really like to see us concentrate on the lower end of workforce housing, especially if it's going to be something that we're subsidizing. That 150 to 250 price range, which might seem low to folks, but I think some of that's going to be in lot size and in some of the other, details that we're able to look at and what zoning allows.
Yeah.
Yeah, 300,000 seems like a lot to me as a minimum.
I wouldn't touch it.
Yeah, I think it does. But if you look at homefinder.org right now, there are 31 housing structures or housing units, including condos, available under $150,000. Okay, and there's only like 100. I have to go back and redo my search. There's a little over 100 if you move it up to 275. That's still, given our population, not a significant number of units. And I actually don't know. Most of these look like they already have accepted offers and accepting backup offers. So there really isn't that much movement in the market. And I don't disagree that we should subsidize lower income housing where we can, but even at this price point, doing infrastructure for a neighborhood would just drive the house price up. So we need to think about utilizing our non-designated funds for things that are outside of I'm not doing this very well at this point, but when we have funds that are designated for affordable housing or subsidized housing, really, because we've had the conversation about affordable, but subsidized housing, and we have the opportunity to use funds for workforce housing, we need to think about broadening that this is my RDC hat, not my affordable housing hat. You know, we need to think about broadening that because, you know, there are no funds available besides this for that next level housing, right? So we need to, you know, we need to consider, you know, how we utilize the tools that we have to create the maximum impact. But I get what you're saying. We'll have to figure out other ways to do the other stuff. But if we don't utilize the non-designated funds for workforce housing, we will have no funds for workforce housing. I guess that's my point.
Lisa, I have a question.
Yes.
I went driving around town a little bit because I was going from one place to another, so I took some detours. There's an awful lot of construction going on, and I wonder what that is for. There's on Roger Street, there's infill, I can't remember, I didn't make the list unfortunately, but there's several places where there's housing going on, multiple dwellings.
Yeah.
All over town, and I just where those are going, who's going there, and because we don't have anybody here right now except those who are going to work at Cook and Galanta. So
yeah, in Catalan, they've been hiring people. We also know that Crane is looking at hiring more people too. I mean, so I don't think that market is going to be the issue for us. And is Jeff McKim happen to be on tonight? He usually makes our meetings.
You don't get a conflict.
Okay, I don't remember who's doing the development on Roger Street. Do you, Mary? Because that went before Plan Commission, and he talked to me about it.
I saw several other ones which were kind of funny in some places.
There are two that I'm aware of. One is down south, and then one is outside of Ellettsville.
Right, and then
but there might be more. I'm not on. I don't follow.
This one's near the uplands. This one's near the upland, across from that other building that's just been finished, across from that new parking lot.
We can find out.
Yeah, and let's hear from others. The commissioners especially would love to hear from you on, I guess, just that basic question: is this something our elected officials, you know, want to pursue? And then did you have any vision regarding the target audience, if you will?
Well, I think that the area we're talking about, the target for lower income, may be a bit difficult, but I don't know. Maybe somebody else has a better sense of it. It's a great in and out area. I mean, I've watched it grow and wondered what was going to go in there, but depending on what else goes in there next to there and how the zoning is, you know, they may be stuck with higher income rather than lower. But does it make sense for us to underwrite some infrastructure for there so something happens? Mm-hmm. That's the other question, I think. Mm-hmm. I got to pick up my tea.
I think we need to use as many tools as we can to spur this kind of house. I mean, to spur housing in all ranges. I would love to hear from Penny and Lee, kind of just your sentiments on whether the county has the will of its elected representatives to kind of move in this direction.
Yeah. I don't know if you have any thoughts to share on that.
Well, I have a couple of questions. First of all, how long are we thinking this TIF will be in place?
Jeff,
maybe I could answer
Jeff.
that. There really are two different options. One is if we used a current TIF district and we designated a portion of that towards that, then it would clearly have the same life as the current TIF district. The one we're looking at, I believe, ends in 11, 12 years. I think it's 2032 or 2033. So it's got that time frame. We could also either create a new TIF or kind of on new ground, or use that same area we're talking about and create a new TIF. And then I think you've got a 25-year maximum. So I think you could go either way. Again, if you kept it with the current TIF district, the concern that I would have in the financing and trying to make it pay for the kind of incentivize we want is that, by the time you get a house built, you're already 2 or 3 probably years down the road, and it just shrinks the time that that increment would be collected. Now, a 25-year would greatly expand that time, but then are you over incentivizing it? Are you giving it more than the necessary to meet your goal? I mean, so there are 2 different options there, and that's something that as we go along, we can talk about. I guess another factor into that is what is kind of what we talked about and what we've been hearing about is if you have a 250 to 275 value home, we know we're going to get an amount. I think it's $2,200 to $2,500 a year in taxes that would go into that increment. If you went with the 150, 125 to 150, it's not going to be proportional because you've got the homestead credit. So if we're owner occupied, maybe another question that we might need to address, that if it's not owner occupied and it's a lease or a rental, then I think that the revenues will be different than if it's owner occupied. We've kind of, the RDC has always talked about it being owner occupied. And so we have the homestead credit built into that calculation. And clearly that's based upon a level of home and a fixed amount. So it's not proportional with the value of the home. So $125,000 home will not get half of a $250,000 home in revenue coming into the TIF district.
Yeah, good.
And I'd also like to know from Lisa, what's the current ratio that banks are looking at for income to support a home, and what kind of down payment are they expecting and things like that? Because for me, a $250,000, $275,000 home is not workforce housing.
Well, I guess it just depends on, it's just going to depend on your income. I think that they're expecting it's the same standard calculation that your house payment, including taxes and insurance, should not exceed 30% of your gross monthly income. Okay, so there's that issue. And then as far as down payment is concerned, it's going to depend on the mortgage product that you use. So if you use like FHA, which a lot of people do for their, to buy homes, the down payment is less. If you use a standard conventional financing mechanism, then it's generally about 20%. But it's just really going to depend. And then Fannie and Freddie both have programs that, require differing amounts. So that's kind of the standard thing. I think that if we're going to look at something in this housing market, we're really looking at sort of I'm going to use second homes, not as in I have a house and then I buy another house, as in I had a house, I'm selling that house, and now I'm moving into a slightly larger house to accommodate my family house kind of thing. And I think a lot of it's just going to depend on how much the infrastructure costs. And so I had a follow-up question to Penny's question, Jeff. If we knew how much the infrastructure was going to cost, I'm figuring that we would have to bond for it because we're not going to get the money.
Mm-hmm.
You won't get the increment until the houses go in, and we can't do the houses until we have the infrastructure. So the money has to come, from somewhere.
From somewhere, right.
Yeah. So if we did a bond for it and we knew how much it was going to be, could we retire the TIF as soon as the debt is paid off?
Absolutely.
And we wouldn't necessarily have to finance it for 20 years. You could do a lesser amount.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember enough about bond financing to know whether or not that would make it difficult to sell the bonds or what the scoop is there.
Well, I think, and I would defer to experts, but from my conversations historically, I think we would have trouble finding a open market for this type of bond. It's just very speculative. So I think we'd have to kind of look at the route of a developer-backed bond. And then there's options on the county's end is, do we want to issue some kind of surety for that bond or not? In this case, I guess historically, I've never really would have thought to recommend that to the county council or the redevelopment commission, unless I had a really good idea that it was going to be paid off, that revenue was coming in. I don't think you could make that case here, because a lot of it's going to depend on the rate of development and how quickly the infrastructure gets in. So I think you would look at a developer-backed bond for this, which has, it's great because if you don't get the revenue, then you don't pay the bond. So I think that's how it would work. Then you got to find the developer and figure out a risk assessment with them and see what other mechanisms that we can tap into to help make that happen.
And I have another question. This might be a zoning question more than the question to you, Jeff, but there's nothing that says that we would have to do all single family housing or all one particular thing. You could do something that's a little bit more dense, closer to 46, and then do something less dense as you go through the development, right? So we could end up getting maybe even multifamily condos, single family housing on small lots, maybe some larger stuff on the back end. So it could be like a multifaceted
The reason we're looking
kind of
at
like
this area,
Renwick, right?
well, the reason we're looking at this area is because it's already zoned.
Right.
We don't have any extra cost going forward to do that part of it. If we want to change it, now we're adding cost that somebody's got to pay, so it makes the whole thing more expensive. If we can use the existing zoning, it's cheaper than if we have to make any changes. So the whole point of this was to try and find ways in which we can use things that are already in place, so we don't have to spend money to put things in place to enable it.
Yeah, I just couldn't remember, Richard, if the whole thing is zoned for single families.
I don't remember either. We would be stuck with whatever it is. I think the real key to this is finding the company that is willing to go in and take on the project and build the buildings, and then work with them to make that something which is financially feasible for them to do at a potential price point which is attractive to the county. Trying to do this in any other way in this kind of market isn't going to work. There's just no way to make it work. We really have to find a company that's willing to come in and build the houses, because we need the houses on the ground with value that can be taxed to pay for it. If we go in and we just put in infrastructure and we don't know when those buildings are going to come online, we have no way of paying for the infrastructure, and we are obligated to pay for it.
Right. And I didn't think that was what we were talking about. I thought we were just sort of discussing whether or not we had the political will to even move forward with this and use it as a potential tool to entice a developer. I would never suggest that we put in infrastructure before we've got somebody signed on the dotted line.
Yeah.
Well,
So
it's not the developer itself in particular, because that's a different activity than building the structures. We need the sign on the line of the person who's willing to commit the millions of dollars it takes to build the structures. They're going to sell those structures, but they have to build them at a particular rate so that we have value added to the property that we can tax. If we don't have value added at a rate which allows us to collect tax and pay off the debt, then this project doesn't work.
Okay. So thank
Kathy
you.
Crabtree had a
Yes.
comment.
Well,
Kathy?
thanks. Am I unmuted? Yeah. So I'm looking at the info that was sent out, and it looks like maybe there's two kinds of TIFs, but the one talked about enable individuals and families whose income is at or below the county's median income. Is that not the one we're looking at?
I think that is the one where you use an existing TIF district and which we have one in the area we're talking about. So we could use that method in the area we're talking about. We could also use the other method. I think the RDC has been focusing on that method,
Okay.
but I don't think they've been focused on that part of it.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, because I just like, I guess like I would like to know more what the zoning is for, because just like everything I'm reading, which my knowledge is probably more limited than many people on here. But I mean, I just hate to focus solely on single family housing, because it just seems like we're just maintaining the status quo mindset of, to me, that's not really looking at missing middle. That's just me.
I definitely feel like if the county is going to go through the extraordinary measures of creating this zoning and the mechanisms that would have to be in place for it, we should make sure that there is indeed a good public benefit that will come. And from the affordable housing perspective, we know that the more equitable the housing distribution, the better it's going to be for the community. I do wonder if there's if we're just stuck with one zone and there's no flexibility at that, maybe we should go back to the beginning to see if we really want to go this route.
Yeah. So we do need clarification on that, and I don't know if anyone's got the zoning map handy or can be looking that up when we talk.
Trying to look up the, I will dig
I
a
was
little bit and see if I
I was
can find
counting on
my
you,
North Park stuff.
Yeah.
It's a PUD, so, you
Right.
know, it's zoning is, I mean, the plan for the PUD is effectively the zoning.
Right. I just have to go into my archives to see.
I was
Right,
thinking
Richard's
it
the one who's been around long enough to.
I was thinking it was a pretty mixed use PUD, but we can confirm that. Any other thoughts on just that basic question of are we, moving this discussion forward? Is there enough interest from our various bodies? And maybe if there's anyone in the audience that would like to chime in, we can certainly, would love to hear from you as well.
Did we ever, while that's, somebody's thinking about that, did we ever get an answer from Curry on the rock potential underground out there? Do we know how big a problem that's going to be yet?
He's not gotten back with me yet on that. From Steve Kreider.
Yeah, because obviously that's going to make infrastructure cost vary greatly.
It's Monroe County. You can assume you're going to hit rock, lots of it.
It's a matter of how much. I know.
Well, it was a quarry, so part of it is a quarry, so you're going to hit some. I'm trying to find my map, Richard Martin, but I'm only finding other maps.
Anyone in the audience would like to chime in and speak? Hi, yes, sir. Is that you, Clark? I didn't recognize you.
Yeah, I have grown a beard and stuff while I've been staying at home. So yeah, so first of all, thanks. It's great to be here. From a BEDC perspective, today in our meeting, we talked about some of the jobs that are coming to the community this year and over the course of next year and thereafter. And right now, the nearest estimates we have is going to be about 780 jobs, new jobs coming to the community. Now, not every one of them needs a new house, but one of the things that we're hearing as we interact with our workforce and the leaders of those businesses out there is that workforce and workforce housing are two important elements. And those are some of the reoccurring themes that we keep hearing. And so, first of all, we are very glad that we're having this discussion. We are certainly interested in this discussion. It's something that the BEDC typically hasn't gotten super involved in, but we are super conscientious of that right now because, again, it's getting lifted up and it's higher and higher on our radar all the time. The other point that I wanted to make is I hear some good discussion going on. Some of the points that Lisa is bringing up, Richard, those are all good things that we're talking about and stuff. And I think it is very, very important that we continue to have this dialogue and look for ways and economical ways in the sense of how do we make it affordable for a developer to come in there and do that, as well as putting the infrastructure in place that will support that type of housing for the future. And we do see the need for step-up housing, as Lisa indicated, from some of the lower levels up into that mid-range level. And let me give you an anecdotal example of that from a business perspective. The Daniels Way, 225 South Daniels Way, that former Keehee building, they're getting ready to move out of that up into their new facility in Ellettsville. And they also have and that's about 160,000 square foot out there. And they also have a plant off of Vernal Pike of about 100,000 square feet. And what's exciting about that is that vacancy, by them moving and building a new facility, is going to be able to help us attract other businesses in. And I kind of look at that very similar to our housing, is when you create a vacancy or a house comes up for sale, moves up, it allows somebody else to fill that that house. And so I think it makes perfect sense what you're talking about. And I think it's a good area that you're looking at. So I do support the dialogue that you're having. And I'm sure between everybody engaged in this phone call, we can have a good, meaningful a good, meaningful outcome of this and come to some great conclusions to make it work for the community and the people that really are affected and impacted by affordable housing and workforce housing. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Grinder, for being here. Yeah.
Oh, Clark, is that the best place to put the housing that we're talking about? That's the other question I have.
Well, I'm not an expert on the housing side. I would leave that to other people that actually do the development of the housing. But I think by looking at I guess I would say some of the resources that you have available within that district, that TIF district, makes a lot of sense to look at that and at least explore that. And I think by breaking that down and understanding that from a financial standpoint and ways that could be leveraged to get affordable housing or workforce housing in there, I think it's the right place to look and to start exploring that.
I don't think we should use affordable housing and workforce housing interchangeably.
Thank you.
I'm not saying workforce housing is bad, but that's not my focus, and they're not interchangeable to me. So just.
Well, thank you. I stand corrected on that.
Well, no,
and technically it should be subsidized housing and workforce housing, because affordable housing is what's affordable for your household across the entire spectrum.
Right.
Yeah.
Do we know the income range of these folks? Because we're talking about building for specific jobs, particularly. Do we know the income of these jobs? Because, are we building so folks can afford it?
Well, is that question to me?
Yes.
Yeah,
okay.
So you're the only one who can answer that, probably.
Well, we most of the jobs that are coming in are going to be above our county average wage. And so that's going to range anywhere between the $17 and $19 an hour, thereabouts. And then some will include benefits. So that's going to be about the ballpark of where that's going to be. Now, dependent upon, for instance, obviously in that area, that's where Ernest Health is going to be putting their facility. They're going to be above average wages there. They're going to be about $62,000.
Well, but that's across the way. That's really, I don't think that will affect that much. That's across the way, Ernest Way, whatever it's called.
That's right, Ernest Health.
From this property, the property we've been talking about.
Right. Well, the question, I was trying to respond to the question of what the wages would be of the jobs.
Okay, besides average, what do you think the total take home would be? 60,000, 50,000, what?
Well, I'm if you look at it between $17 and $19 an hour or thereabouts, I mean, you're talking somewhere between 36 and probably 40,000. And that's going to be gross, right through there.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm looking at.
Because you're talking about folks in roughly my income range, and the sticker shock I feel about purchasing a house that much is tremendous. Now, if I lived in another community and lived somewhere, $120,000, maybe $150,000 home is right there. In Bloomington, as Lisa pointed out, I'm priced out of the housing market.
Yeah. Yeah, and we've also been in a lot of conversations, especially the last few days, about our most vulnerable residents and how they're there really is lacking that very lowest tier of like under $400 rentals.
Right,
And
right.
so the people who might be best in that category are stretching themselves to go on to the next. And it's kind of, you know, what you're all talking about, the distribution across the board all needs to be there. But for our purposes, I think it sounds like we do need to clarify the intent of who we are looking to help. And is it workforce housing? Is it subsidizing housing, which might be for workforce or might not be considered that? Any other thoughts on that? Anyone else from the audience who'd like to share?
Let me jump in a little bit. My notion of we don't build new low-cost housing.
Right, we don't.
It's not possible to do. We can build moderate priced housing. I did find my map. This area we're talking about is what's called a neighborhood density lots. They are not multifamily, and they're not high density, and they are not multifamily residential. So they're neighborhoods. So this would be typical neighborhood kind of construction.
So
it's already zoned for.
SFR all the way?
Well, I don't know the definition exactly in this ordinance, but I'm assuming it's single family, single residential lots through the whole thing. That's what my recollection, I wasn't quite sure whether there was something higher density up along the road, but it doesn't have that designation.
I don't remember that.
So
I can't find my map either.
I think what we're looking for is, if the commissioners are not interested in pursuing this, there's no sense in us doing anything.
That's
all right.
No
so if I don't get something positive out of the commissioners that say this might be something that we would be interested in, we don't know enough about it yet to tell you, then we can still try and see how we might be able to work something out. Certainly we've got to figure out a price point and that kind of stuff. If the commissioners are just not interested, then there's no sense doing this.
Yeah, and that property, I mean, we do have to ask what happens if we take no action, and what will get built there without us.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. I see Marty Hawk's got her hand up.
Oh, I can't see that. I'm sorry, Ms. Hawk. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I haven't been looking at the participant list to see your hands.
Hey. Am I muted?
You're good.
No.
Okay. You know, for decades, I have worked with starter home housing. Used to be called farmer's home. Now it's called rural housing. And that's for the people just trying to get into that very first starter home. That might not be what you really want in your TIF area, because their income is not going to support what you're going to also need for your workforce housing. You need a lot of different price ranges, different types of housing. And as they move up on the economic ladder, as the longer they work and the more money they're making, they move up a little bit into a little bit bigger house. That frees up their home that they have now, that little starter home they started with, for affordable housing. And so it's important that we keep turning over this housing into different types of housing. And it is difficult to build a group of affordable housing together. And many times it's not ideal to have them all in one little neighborhood. So I'm just sharing some of my thoughts over the years of experience I have, also working with different developers and home builders. I would think we would want to reach out to the home builders community to see if they are already building housing and they're investing and putting in their own infrastructure. would we as a county be trying to be in competition with all these other home builders who are able to get out there and build with the infrastructure? I don't have the answers to that, but I certainly think before we would move forward with anything, we would get that answer, because we represent everyone of all different income levels and home ability levels, or whether or not they just want to rent. Some people would prefer to rent. Other people want to own their own little starter home with little plot of ground where their children can play. So there's a lot to be discussed, and I'm glad that we're discussing it and not just trying to move forward without answers.
Yeah, a lot to discuss. Thank you.
Thank you, Marty.
Yes, Kathy.
I was just going to draw your attention. Cheryl Munson had a comment in the chat. So.
Okay, I didn't see that.
Oh, thank you. So Council Member Munson supports mixed housing types in North Park, including workforce housing, multifamily, condos, starter, and 300,000 plus.
Oh, that's not what we were talking about.
The whole mix. Well, back to the.
Yeah, I like the mixture idea, not making like, you know, an isolated little low income
an island.
And then, I mean, just, you know, a mixture, like a community housing. So.
And I think we all see that reoccurring theme between all of us is that we want to have an equitable, distribution. Yeah. There can be some 300,000 plus homes. And if we need to do that to make sure that the project is viable, I certainly support that. But we also want to see those homes that Marty and Cheryl are talking about, where those folks can step into housing as well. Yeah. And if the zoning on this project is going to be an impediment, we need to see if there's a location that might work better, because I definitely feel like as a community, we should pursue trying to incentivize housing. This just might not be the best location.
Yeah, yep, point. Any?
Hey, Fred?
Yes.
This is Lee, and I'm sorry, I'm on my phone and I don't know how to raise my hand on my phone.
Oh, you're fine. Thanks for being here and chiming in.
We got you.
Yeah. Sorry, my Smithville DSL has totally quit working, so this is the only way I can do it. I just want to say that I very much agree with Richard that before I would know whether or not this is something I really want to consider, there's an awful lot of questions that it seems to me need to be answered. And I think a lot of what Marty said is very relevant, and we would want to find out about a lot more of that. So my position is a little equivocal.
Okay. Yeah, that's very helpful, and I agree.
A lot
of questions. Yeah, I think we all have a lot of questions.
And can we list the things that we agree on and also get the answer to some of these questions, and then at some point reconvene?
Yeah, I was about to say, Jeff, I don't know if you're keeping track of some of the unanswered questions, but I think that we we sort of need that listed, and Vox, that's also a good idea. What do we agree out on? What are the things we are all here saying that without a doubt we support X, Y, and Z. So maybe we can talk about that for a minute.
Well, here are the questions that I know and I've heard and I've written down, is that we've got some questions about what it sounds to me like people agree that a multi income level type of a housing scheme is the best. Mm-hmm. And so along with that, it's what is the zoning in place? Mm-hmm. And I know Richard indicated that it was, and I'm not going to flip back through my notes, but basically it was a normal residential density. And so we want to confirm what that means, because I can tell you that North Park PUD is a monster, mm-hmm. to say the least. I think we wanted to know, when we're talking about cost levels, what is the income level that would be associated with who could afford that under the 30% of the wage, all right, and look at some of the new jobs. And I think particularly with Catalent and Cook and Ernest Health, I think we need to, and I already see us talked about this third one quite a bit, is what kind of building partners are there out there that could help with these buildings. I think the RDC has always kind of taken, let's figure out what the revenue level would be before we make those approaches. But I don't think that would be a hard conversation to figure out who to talk to. I would probably, since Clark is on this call, see if he had any ideas of who would be that, or if any of the members here have any particular developers who they know would want to be, they would like to see involved in this kind of a project. Give me their contact information. I can reach out to them to see, kind of what their thoughts are. Again, without knowing what to offer, I think I could have an initial conversation. I can't guarantee how fruitful it will be, but I think those were the three big questions that I heard come out of this conversation. As far as agreeing, I think that everybody agrees that we need more information.
Right.
And I think everybody agrees that the preferred method would be kind of a multi-income level idea. And those were the two major agreements that I have written down.
And then I don't know if this was agreement or not, but just throwing it out there to see if there's agreement, but not just single family homes, in addition to the multi-income level, but also multi-housing types, maybe. I don't know if there's agreement.
I think there's agreement, at least I felt there was.
Yeah, assuming the zoning would allow it, and if not, then the discussion turns to where else would be more appropriate, right?
Yeah, I think multi-housing types make sense for this property, given the fact that 46 is such a heavily traveled
Right.
road that it makes more sense to put more dense housing up front and then less dense housing in the back. I think this location is pretty good because, it happens to be an easy, if you're working at Boston Scientific or Cook and Spencer, it's easy to that. If you're working at, at Cook on Curry, it's an easy route to that, and it's also a quick trip to the highway. So it's
well, that makes it not quick, but that makes it a very convenient access to Crane.
Yeah, so I think it's a good
The
location.
Crane and to the hospital.
To IU.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, the new hospital and Ernest Health.
Yeah, if you work there, you could ride your bike.
There is multifamily housing scheduled for parts of the North Park development, just not this part.
Right.
In terms of reaching out to developers, I would suggest reaching out to the developer of the Westgate on Third property, because they have a mix of different types of housing there, and that seems to be, generally people are favorable towards that development, and it might be useful to see what that developer has to say.
And I think that if you do something like that, it's not likely to be one developer.
I
The
think so.
multifamily, stuff. And I really think we should think about condos too, because we know we have an
I think so too.
and
I think
we don't have
it's
that.
going to, I agree with you, Lisa. I think condos are going to become a market that people are going to want to have.
Right. And I think that when we're talking about all these different housing types, it's likely to be multiple housing developers. So I also think we should talk. There's a developer that's building in Ellettsville. I think it might be even Chris Smith. I'm not sure. Is Marty still on? She might know.
Tom Winninger is building out there.
Okay, yeah, exactly.
Tim Winninger's son, Tom.
Winninger, okay.
Yeah, so we might have some people that already know what the costs are for doing some.
Well, and Tom built. I'm living in Renwick in a condo that Tom built. So he's familiar with that market.
Yeah, so he might be a good contact just to get some idea of what we would be looking at. And he also did, I think that didn't Weininger Construction, they may not have done the infrastructure, but they were the developer of Renwick, right?
Well, his dad, Winninger Stolberg, his dad
Yeah.
and Eric Stolberg.
Right.
He might even be able to give us some infrastructure estimates as well.
Well, we can certainly talk to Eric.
Yeah, or Kreider.
Because
Jeff, I know it. At some point, I'm going to ask about services to the area, such as connection to transit, broadband access, those
Right.
things.
Yeah, yep. Yeah,
That has to be considered.
right.
That's one of the assets about putting housing on that property there at North Park, is there should be able to make some kind of connection that there's a regular route for a bus service because of the highway being there.
Not soon.
No, not soon. I agree with that.
Not until it gets annexed by the city.
Yeah. I know that. I know that bucket.
Well, rural transit needs to be annexed by the city? Did I misunderstand?
Well, the city buses are not going to run outside the city limits.
No, but rural transit, I think, runs right by there already.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It goes
Yes,
back
we
and
do.
back, I know.
Well, and the change to actually get to be able for the city buses to be able to run outside of city limits would just be going before the city council and asking for them to make a change on the rules.
That's true.
But they have to have approval by the state too, because state didn't allow it.
No, so we thought that because we took
I don't
this
think so.
when we were all running for council.
No, it's up to the city council.
Yeah.
They've shown no history of showing any interest in that. They won't even go to Ivy Tech.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
Cook, which is insane to me.
Because I've spent a lot of time.
I
with the
agree.
folks in Lou
I agree
talking about
too.
this.
I've dealt with this for 40 years, so.
I know.
And I want to make sure that that we maximize our time here this evening and kind of
Yes.
put first steps first. So what if we break here today? We've got our questions to get more information on. We seem to have consensus that we want to continue this discussion, but we just need more information. Is that fair?
Yes.
Any objections?
No, and I really appreciate your inviting us in to talk with you.
We
Well,
appreciate the
We'd like your
collaboration.
input.
We appreciate the collaboration and appreciate everyone. You know, it's a new tool, fairly new for the state and for counties. So it's worth exploring and, you know, deciding whether it's the right tool or not. And
Well, we might want to talk to Greg Garitas and see if he's got some experience in other places, since this is new in the state and since he works all over the place.
Good idea, Jim.
He had done one of these already when we'd talked with him earlier. So he's
I think you're right.
experienced with this.
Yeah, I think so.
Who is Greg Garitas? Sorry.
He's a Financial Solutions Group. He's got a company that's taken care of our finances forever. The county uses him. I know when the annexation thing was going on, that's who they hired
Okay.
to look at
impact of that.
the impact of that. Now, we never, because of the intervention by the state, we never adjudicated whose numbers were better. But anyhow, he's very familiar with county rules and just
And the TIF.
and very
particular.
with tips. He's the guy that does our reports, or his company, which is, I think he certainly oversees it and leads it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's been involved through the Affordable Housing Commission before. You just might have missed one of
Oh,
them.
okay.
Yeah, his name sounds familiar. I just couldn't remember. Thanks.
Yeah,
Well, there are other
FSG.
Garitas around, so that gets confusing, I know.
So Jeff, yeah.
The other thing we need, coming out of this, we'd like to get 3 or 4 people who can kind of form a core group to dig into this.
Well, and I was going to ask Jeff for your advice on next steps, because we could gather the info and report to the Board of Commissioners and to the Housing Commission, or we can gather us all again and we'd look to your guidance on what's preferred by the different bodies for that.
You know, at this point, it sounds like that everybody has the same question. Each of the groups have the same basic questions. I think there may be some different philosophies because, you know, just because of the, you know, what do we, I'm going to use the word affordable housing there. You use that word and everybody hears something different, right?
Right.
That's a problem. It might not be a bad idea to kind of think, hey, let's have the group come back and meet together in February, March, but have maybe one member from the RDC with one member from the Affordable Housing Commission and a commissioner kind of get together in the meantime and kind of go, I'm going to contact the developers and all those and kind of have a smaller meeting where we sit down and we go like, hey, here's what this guy said, here's what that guy said, to get kind of feedback on making sure we have a much more polished, answering the questions, meet with the planning staff to see exactly what the planning means in a small, 3-4 member group. Because this is a great meeting, don't get me wrong, but to have to try to get through and get through some of the minutia in a group this big is going to be tough. So I would suggest having a RDC and the Affordable Housing Commission kind of give a representative. I'll talk to the commissioners, okay, and have them, make sure they're in the loop and involved. And if they can attend the meeting, and then kind of move forward that way. And then maybe have another meeting like this in February is kind of what I think would be the most effective way to do it.
That sounds good to me.
I would recommend you put two.
Penny.
I had a question also. I heard, sorry, I think might have been Jeff or Richard Martin talking about using a developer-backed bond to start things going. What happens if the developer goes belly up?
Well, that's the problem.
I mean, that happened in Renwick. So, they partially built houses and then they stood there.
I guess when I said that, I was saying what we've done historically in North Park, where we did have a developer-backed bond. I mean, clearly we would have criteria on what developer we use and have some say in that. Essentially what a developer-backed bond is that the developer is going to go ahead and do the infrastructure. They're going to do it based upon their credit, and that this would be a revenue source that would be pledged to pay back that debt that they are going to get. If they don't put it in, well, then, then nothing grows, and then they're on the hook for it all. I mean, that's kind of how it worked in North Park.
Yeah.
And this is what we just did with the TIF we created for, let's see, what do we call it? Profile Curry for the new cook TIF.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, Jeff.
Yes.
When you were first talking about a developer bond, you seemed to indicate that there would be a difference between whether we offered surety or not. Can you explain that a little bit better?
Well, I guess, yeah, I can. And I can use examples in our West Side TIF district. We just issued a bond to build the Profile Parkway extension. We've had adequate TIF revenues, and we based all our projections and everything off of our current revenues and making sure we still had adequate coverage. Basically, $2 were coming in for every $1 we're spending for debt payment. So that was, in that case, we had the county council. We went to the county council and said, hey, here are the numbers. We don't see a chance that we are actually going to have to issue any additional tax revenues in order to pay that back. Will you go ahead and put a property tax backup on this debt so that we can get a better rate? All right. We did that with the West Side. With the North Park, its initial bond, we said, hey, we can't show you any data that says, hey, we are going to be able to have any assurance that this is going to pay itself back based upon how it looks today. And so in that case, we said, the developer is getting a lot of benefit out of this. They need to take a lot more of the risk. And so we said, no, we're not going to do that kind of property tax backup to that debt for those reasons. Right now, when we're looking at this housing, I think, and I don't think I don't think we're far enough down the road to have this conversation today, but it may come to a point where we say, hey, is the public benefit associated with this project, is that a benefit that we want to allocate some of that risk back to the county?
No.
And that's what I would assume the answer would be, right? But,
Yes,
but we're not
probably.
anywhere close to even knowing what the benefit is. So it's impossible to weigh it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. And that's something we can sort of add to the list of things we want more information on, just to kind of compile that into the list. So yeah, thank you, Jeff, for the suggestion about representatives meeting before the February meeting. There's a message in the chat asking if each group could have 2. I suspect for the Board of Commissioners that would pose a difficulty. That's a quorum, but I don't see why, if the Affordable Housing Commission wanted to, they couldn't, right?
That's what I was thinking, just because our areas of expertise are kind of spread out, so we might want to tag team it.
Yeah, understand.
No, I think 2's fine. I just think a meeting with this many people, it would make it so it would be much more difficult to work on all those nuances. And again, we would have those meetings, and then I would expect Affordable Housing Commission and the RDC at an intermeeting meeting could even say, hey, we've met and here's what we've talked about, just, kind of
report
working it through that way. I mean,
sounds good. Okay. Well, if there's nothing else on this evening, I just want to thank the Housing Commission and the Board of Commissioners for joining us this evening, and for those in the audience that also joined this discussion. I think we have just one item on the RDC agenda after this.
Well, 2. We've got
yes.
Lisa's item and then claims.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Hopefully minutes.
And
minutes. Sorry. Excuse
That's
me.
right.
So
Okay,
then,
are we back to the RDC now?
yes.
Thank you.
Okay, I move that we approve the minutes from November.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
We'll look forward to continuing this conversation. Thank you.
If that was a motion, I'll second it.
Well,
Thank you.
I'm not sure what we're doing, folks. I think
It's the minutes.
We're approving minutes.
Okay, we skipped the BNL
We got to
contract.
do the BNL.
Oh, we'll get to that. Right after the BNL was not on my list. When did that get added?
I think that was an update.
Okay, well, we
Jeff?
can do that. We can do that after we can approve the claims.
It's already
would
on
that
our
be?
agenda. It's already listed on the agenda as item 3. So let's do it.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, let's get the minutes done then.
Item number 3 is the being longest enough contract ratification. So I'm gonna go with the agenda, unless Jeff tells me otherwise.
I think the agenda is fine. Let's let Lisa get back to kind of fill you in on what we're doing with the contract. This is the Bing longest NEF agreement.
Thank you.
Okay. So, and I apologize if my dog barks in the background. I gave him a bone, but I don't have as much control over him. So, so this is for the commissioners. I had taken this to the commissioners, and the reason why I did that, I wasn't sure if we would have a December meeting. Sometimes we don't. And the other reason is because this is for the Curry Pike, Smith Pike, Woodyard Road roundabout project. And that is to go letting in the spring. So I like to have all the contracts in place so it doesn't jeopardize anything for the letting. This was for construction inspection services. We did the normal NDOT RFP notifications. They go out for 30 days. And then we received back the RFPs from the interested consultants for the project. So myself and Paul Satterley do the scoring, and then we compare and choose the highest consultant at the time. So it was being longest enough on this project. So we went ahead and had the commissioners sign the contract, and then wanted to bring it back to you guys for ratification, just basically to keep everything going forward since we're so close to a letting date. And I have another update to this project, so I don't know if you want me to just wait for staff comments and you guys go ahead with this ratification, or how you want to do that, so.
What's the amount of the contract?
I'm gonna have to find that in here. Do you have that, Jeff, right offhand? Hang on.
I do not.
Okay, hang on. Let me look through here. Actually, hang on. Let me add these two numbers together because that was part of my other update. 59,680 should be not to exceed $298,400.
$98,400. Okay. Any questions for Lisa about this item or comments? If not, we'll just take this item. We'll take a motion to ratify this.
I move we ratify this agreement.
Is there a second? I think Iris is seconding. Okay.
Sorry about that. I was on mute. I was muted. I said I move, but that's okay. I'll second.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Lisa, what's the percentage of the contract, full contract amount, full construction amount is the inspection services?
Well, it varies. It can be anywhere from say 10 to 15% depending on a project. And then also it's going to depend on what the letting comes in at. This seems to be right at the 10%, because right now with construction inspection and construction, we're looking at like a $2.8 million project for construction and construction inspection. So it's right at that 10%, which is typical, is very typical for the projects.
All right.
Good.
Thank you.
So we had a motion and a second, and do we take roll, Jeff?
Yes. Are you guys, Commissioner Pfefferman,
Yes.
Commissioner Kiesling,
Yes.
Commissioner Shelton,
Yes.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner Abbott.
Yes.
Motion is approved, 5-0.
Thank you. Okay, next on our agenda is minutes, approval of minutes.
I move approval.
Second.
Any
I
discussion?
read those early this morning, so.
Discussion, questions, edits on the minutes? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Ready for a roll call?
Commissioner Pfefferman,
Yes.
Commissioner Kiesling,
Yes.
Commissioner Shelton,
Yes.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner Abbott.
Yes.
Motion is approved, 5-0.
Thank you. And next we have the claims. And do you have those handy to read the total?
There's a change in those. We had to add the RBB and I couldn't find my email, so I don't know how much that is.
I have it opened. I can read them
Okay.
individually, or do you just want me to read the total and tell you who they're all to?
Yeah.
What's the total for the RBB? It's one something.
126,970.95.
Okay.
All right.
And the total claims with that update?
It's $2,424,324.38.
Right. That's what I got.
Okay.
All right.
Hopefully everyone's had time to.
There are, it looks like 10 claims with DLZ getting 4 of them.
Right. I move approval of claims.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a
And I would
second.
just note the RBB, that's half of what we will be giving them.
Dana, good luck.
If no other questions or comments regarding the claims, we can call the roll.
Commissioner Pfefferman,
Yes.
Commissioner Kiesling,
Yes.
Commissioner Shelton,
Yes.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner Abbott.
Yes.
Motion is approved, 5-0.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Thank
All
you.
right, well, now we'll hear from staff. Lisa, now we can hear the update on that project and anything else.
Okay.
There.
I'll give you an update on Profile Parkway extension. as we are still set to open up Gates Drive, hopefully tomorrow. The rest of the profile extension from Curry Pike to Gates Drive, we're going to remain that closed for through the winter. That also saves us from having to do snow removal on where there's no residents or businesses located at this time, and then get that project completed in the spring. So my other update was for the Curry Pike, Smith Pike, Woodyard Road. As I stated, it goes to letting in the spring. At this time, we had only $511,782 committed to that project through the MPO funds that were available. So it was my understanding that NDOT, some projects don't get completed, some projects reach some barriers that they might have to move to a different fiscal year. So in talking with NDOT, it seemed like they had some funding become available. So I reached out and asked if there was any way that they could help any of the funding on this Curry Pike, Smith Pike, Woodyard Road intersection, since we are ready. We just secured the last parcel. Right away is cleared. We just had the trees cleared for utilities, so we didn't want to hold up this project at all. So actually NDOT stepped up and they have programmed an additional $885,981 to this project. So so when you add the NDOT, the MPO money, that's $1,397,763. The remainder of that project would be local funds, which at this point now would be $1,459,547. So it's almost $1 million less than what we thought we were going to have to pay. And then it can also be a little bit less than that, depending on what the bids come in at. So we always hope that the bids are going to come in less than what we have anticipated for construction costs. So, so that helps. So I just wanted to give you that update on that project. That's great. And I just publicly just want to say thank you so much to NDOT. They can always tell me no, and I just figure it doesn't hurt to ask. But so yeah, so that I'm thrilled that they gave us almost $1 million for the construction of that project. So if you have any questions on any other project, Fullerton Pike Phase 3 is of course still under design. We're just now closing out Fullerton Pike Phase 2. So that's what I have.
What about the other part of the
Vernal Pike Connector?
Vernal Pike Connector, we will have, I know Jeff's been busy with doing this affordable housing presentation and getting everything in line for that. We should be getting with Greg and Jeff and be doing a cash flow statement for the January meeting. So.
All right.
We still have some work to do. I know the railroad had came back with some requests. I do know Paul, our engineer, who is very knowledgeable on working with the railroad, has reached out to DLZ Hasib and talked to him and gave him some suggestions on negotiating with the railroad. So, so we're still in process of trying to digest the numbers, get numbers down, but we should have a better cash flow idea in January for you.
Good job, Lisa, and good holiday for everybody, but you in particular, you've worked so hard.
I want to second that. I think it is not an accident that you have the nerve to reach out frequently and are successful in getting.
Exactly.
You've got a history of that, and I think it's because of the way you do it and your relationship with the people there. So thank you.
I appreciate it. We kind of sat down and went through the numbers, and since 2016 of award letters and community crossings, that it equals for Monroe County about $27 million.
That's amazing.
Wow.
And yeah, you should definitely deserve a big pat on the back.
I agree.
It's a great team. I have a great team. So
good. That's good.
Good. They owe it to us.
Now, Richard.
Now.
But we have a good leader.
But they don't have to give it to us if we make them mad, and Lisa doesn't.
Right.
Okay.
No, great to work with. So I enjoy working with NDOT and the group that I work with. And like I said, they can always tell us no, but it doesn't hurt to ask in different situations. And the pandemic's changed a lot of things for local entities and such. So we just keep plugging along. And as long as we keep the projects moving forward and shovel ready and everything, you never know when money's going to pop up like it did for this project. So that's what we do.
Yep. Very good.
Great, thank you.
Any other staff updates?
I think Lisa's news outweighs anything I could possibly ever say. I think, that's just an example of, why we wanted to wait a little bit to get that cash flow done is, I know that, and hopefully ending I thought we'd try to end 2 projects, but apparently we're only going to do 1 since we don't want to plow snow over a road that doesn't have any businesses on it. So really looking forward to getting that cash flow update done, as well as picking Greg's brain on residential TIFs. I guess the other thing is, how do you guys want to allocate, or do you want me to just send an email to all of you when we start setting up this additional meeting with the affordable housing, and then whoever can make it, and we'll just go that way?
Yes.
Okay.
That'd be good.
Thank you.
And when we get that cash flow thing done, can we then give an answer to RBB, or do we need anything else?
Yeah.
We got the settlement.
I think what we'd want to do is let's look at the bids are due back on February 11th.
Okay.
I think so. I think the February meeting is I think I told Dr. Sanders that's kind of the point where we're going to really look at it. So I think that's where I think we'd pay attention to that.
Yeah, I think it's a February meeting. We should have enough information at that point.
Yeah.
Good.
Great.
That'd be helpful.
Thank you. Any commissioners' comments?
I got one. Are all you commissioners going to re-up for this next year? And I know Efrat's not. So.
Oh, really? You're not?
Yeah. So I want to thank her very much for her years of service and leadership.
Thank you. It was a difficult decision. I think this is 5 years. We've done a lot of amazing things, and I'm so proud of, and I've learned from each of you, because you've all been doing this work, and have taught me a lot about TIFs and economic development, zoning and planning and all kinds of things. And I enjoy our time together. It's just that the last year, my position with United Way and the role that we've played in the community with COVID relief and a number of other things, I don't feel like I'm giving this my all, and that's not what the RDC needs. So I know it'll be in capable hands with those staying on and with anyone new coming along. And I'm here to support and cheer and partner and keep all of that up with the RDC, both personally and professionally.
Well, you've been very helpful and very good leadership, and we appreciate you, and good luck in the future. And happy holidays.
Thank you. I'll miss y'all.
Yeah, we'll miss you for sure.
Hope everyone has a wonderful holiday season, that you get some rest and relaxation and recharge, because there's a lot of work ahead for all of us.
There is, that's for sure.
And thanks to TSD for keeping us safe, and to CATS.
Thank you, Jim. That's good. It's very helpful.
Yes.
This is a much easier meeting, frankly, sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just glad TSD has got this figured out.
Yeah,
that's right. I agree.
Jeff, is there anything we need to do to stay on?
I think not. They should have gone an effort.
We serve at the pleasure of the commissioners, so I think they have to. I think it's an annual appointment.
Yes. Yes.
But they request,
and I've been asked to submit an application to the council to be reappointed.
Yes.
Yeah, the council is more formal than the commissioners.
Yeah,
that's right.
The commissioners requested knowledge of who was not wanting to remain, and that's all that they've expressed to me.
Okay, okay. Well, see you all next year, hopefully with good health and good other outcomes.
Stay safe, stay home, no social gathering.
Right.
That's right.
That's
I'm
right.
not. We'll social gather here.
All right.
Yeah.
Good holiday. Have a happy holiday, everybody, wherever you're going to be.
Well, I think we need to
Oh yeah, we have to motion.
particularly,
Formal motion to adjourn.
Yeah, make a move.
Second, happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, everyone.